The Deception Protocol, the golden ships of the Galactic Confederation hung in Earth's sky like a promise of doom. Each vessel stretched for kilometers, their crystalline hulls reflecting sunlight in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Below them, 8 billion humans watched and waited, knowing that their world's fate would be decided in the next 24 hours. Commander Sarah Chun stood in the deepest bunker humanity had ever built, 5 kilometers beneath the Himalayas. The facility didn't exist on any government record, and the 300 people working there had been declared dead years ago. She watched the main screen showing the alien armada and felt a grim satisfaction. The Confederation had no idea. What they were really dealing with. The message from Supreme Overseer Keleth had been simple and direct. Earth would submit to Confederation rule within 1 solar rotation or face complete annihilation. They had demonstrated their power by vaporizing Pluto with a single shot from their flagship. The message was clear. Resistance meant death. President Martinez appeared on the secure communication screen. Her face showed the exhaustion of 3 days without sleep, but her eyes remained sharp. Commander Chun, are we ready? Sarah looked at the status boards covering every wall of the command center. Green lights showed operational status for facilities the aliens couldn't even imagine existed. Operation Blindside is ready, Madam President. Give the word, and we show them what humanity really is. The President nodded slowly. Then we proceed as planned. May history forgive us for what we're about to do. The public surrender came 12 hours later. President Martinez stood before the United Nations Assembly and announced Earth's complete capitulation to the Galactic Confederation. The speech was broadcast to every screen on the planet, showing humanity's leader with tears in her eyes as she signed away their freedom. The aliens were pleased. Overseer Keleth personally descended to Earth's surface to accept the surrender. The ceremony took place in New York City, with thousands of humans gathered to witness their subjugation. Keleth was a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms, wearing robes that seemed to be made of captured starlight. Your species shows wisdom, Keleth announced through the translation devices. The Confederation has ruled for 10,000 years. You are merely the latest addition to our collection of servant worlds. What the aliens didn't notice were the subtle movements happening across the globe. In abandoned mines, massive doors were opening for the first time in decades. In the deepest parts of the ocean, things that looked like underwater mountains were beginning to move. In orbit, satellites that had seemed dead for years were quietly coming back online. Lieutenant Marcus Thompson led one of the ground teams responsible for the deception. His unit had spent 3 years perfecting their act as defeated, demoralized soldiers. They helped the aliens catalog Earth's military resources, showing them warehouses full of outdated weapons and obsolete technology. Every piece of advanced equipment had been hidden or disguised. Months ago, the Confederation's assessment teams were thorough but arrogant. They scanned Earth's military bases and laughed at the primitive projectile weapons and basic nuclear devices. Their technology was so far advanced that human weapons seemed like toys to them. They didn't bother looking very closely at things that seemed harmless. Dr. Yuki Tanaka worked in one of the surface laboratories that the aliens were allowed to inspect. She showed them computers that ran on vacuum tubes and laser weapons that could barely burn through paper. The alien scientists were condescending, explaining to her how their civilization had surpassed such technology millennia ago. Your quantum processors are very interesting, Yuki said to one of the alien scientists, pretending to struggle with the concept. How do they handle parallel dimensional calculations? The alien laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Your species won't understand such concepts for another 1,000 years, if ever. Yuki nodded meekly and made notes on her primitive tablet. In reality, she was transmitting everything to the real laboratories hidden beneath the fake ones, where human scientists had been developing technologies that the aliens hadn't even theorized yet. The occupation proceeded smoothly for 3 days. Alien administrators took control of Earth's governments. Their soldiers patrolled the streets of major cities. Their ships maintained positions over population centers, ready to suppress any resistance. Everything was going exactly according to their standard occupation protocols. Captain James Rodriguez commanded one of humanity's most closely guarded secrets, the stealth corvette Phantom Strike. His ship had been hiding in the asteroid belt, powered down and disguised as a dead rock. Now, as he received the activation signal, systems throughout the vessel began coming online. "All stations report ready," his executive officer announced. Graviton torpedoes loaded, reality anchors stable, dimensional shields at full power. James looked at his crew of 30, all of whom had been training for this moment for 5 years. "Remember, we get one shot at surprise. Make it count." Similar scenes played out across the solar system. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this possibility, ever since they first detected alien signals from deep space. The public had been told these were natural phenomena, but the government knew better. They knew invasion was coming, and they prepared accordingly. The breakthrough had come from an unexpected source. A young physicist named Alan Stirling had discovered how to manipulate space-time at the quantum level while trying to solve an entirely different problem. His equations showed that with enough energy, you could literally punch holes through dimensions. The military applications were immediately obvious. Sarah Chun watched the countdown timer in her command bunker. In 60 seconds, humanity would reveal its true face to the galaxy. Around her, operators prepared to coordinate the most complex military operation in human history. Every hidden weapon, every secret ship, every concealed soldier would strike simultaneously. "All units confirm. Ready status," the tactical coordinator reported. "Awaiting your command." Sarah took a deep breath. The Confederation thought they were occupying a primitive world that had barely achieved spaceflight. They were about to learn that humanity had been playing a much longer game. "Send the signal," she ordered. "Activate everything." The transformation was instantaneous and devastating. Across Earth, hidden installations erupted from concealment. Mountains split open to reveal massive gun batteries. Ocean floors cracked as submarine battleships rose from trenches. Cities revealed that entire skyscrapers were actually disguised weapons platforms. In space, hundreds of human vessels materialized from stealth mode. They had been hiding in plain sight, disguised as asteroids, dead satellites, and space debris. The Phantom Strike fired the first shot, a graviton torpedo that phased through the shields of a Confederation cruiser and detonated inside its reactor core. The ship didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist, crushed into a singularity the size of a pinhead. The aliens' response was immediate panic. Overseer Kelleth screamed into his communication device, demanding explanations that his subordinates couldn't provide. Their sensors showed human technology that shouldn't exist, weapons that violated their understanding of physics, ships that could appear and disappear at will. Sarah Chun opened a channel to the Confederation flagship. Kelleth's face appeared on the screen, his silver features contorted with rage and confusion. "Greetings, Overseer," Sarah said calmly. "I'm Commander Chun of Earth Defense Command. The military force you thought you conquered was a prop, a stage show for your benefit. Now you're facing Earth's real defenders. This is impossible." Kelleth snarled. "Your species just achieved spaceflight 50 years ago." Sarah smiled coldly. "Publicly, yes. Privately, we've been preparing for visitors like you. We learned about the Confederation 40 years ago from intercepted transmissions. We knew you were coming, and we knew how you operated. Your standard occupation protocols, your assumption of superiority, your tendency to underestimate primitive species. We counted on all of it. The battle for Earth had begun in earnest. Confederation ships found themselves facing weapons they couldn't understand or counter. Human vessels used dimensional phase technology to exist in multiple places simultaneously. Their weapons ignored shields by attacking from parallel dimensions. Their defenses literally removed incoming fire from reality. But humanity's greatest advantage wasn't their technology. It was their unpredictability. The Confederation had conquered hundreds of worlds using the same tactics. They expected certain responses, certain patterns of resistance. Humans didn't follow any of those patterns. Asterisk. The turning tide, the Galactic Confederation's Second Fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Neptune, responding to Overseer Keleth's desperate calls for reinforcement. Admiral Zentaris commanded 500 warships, each one a veteran of multiple planetary conquests. He had never lost a battle in 3 centuries of service. What he found in Earth's solar system defied all logic. Confederation ships drifted powerless, their crews evacuated or surrendered. Others were simply gone, leaving only rapidly dispersing clouds of atoms. The primitive humans they had come to subjugate were systematically dismantling the occupation force with technology that shouldn't exist. Sarah Chun monitored the arrival of the Second Fleet from her command center. The odds had just shifted dramatically against humanity, but she had expected this. The Confederation never sent just one fleet to establish control. They always had. Backup ready. Phase 2 begins now, she announced to her commanders. Release the swarm. From the asteroid belt, 10,000 automated drones activated. Each was no larger than a basketball, but they contained miniaturized dimensional phase generators. They could pass through shields and armor as if they didn't exist, delivering antimatter payloads directly into enemy ship cores. Admiral Zentaris watched in horror as the drone swarm approached his fleet. His tactical officers reported that conventional weapons couldn't target them. The drones existed partially in another dimension, making them effectively invulnerable to standard attacks. The first wave of drones reached the Confederation fleet and began their work. Ships started disappearing in flashes of pure energy as their reactors were breached from within. Zentaris ordered his fleet to scatter, but the drones followed, adapting to every evasive maneuver. Dr. Tanaka's team had spent years studying captured Confederation technology from probe crashes and deep space salvage. They had learned the aliens' greatest weakness, their rigid thinking. The Confederation had used the same technology for millennia, perfecting it but never truly innovating. Humans, with their chaotic creativity, had developed entirely new approaches to warfare. Captain Rodriguez guided the Phantom Strike through the battle, targeting command ships with surgical precision. His graviton torpedoes could compress matter to incredible density, creating micro-black holes that consumed everything nearby. The Confederation had shields against energy weapons and kinetic impacts, but they had no defense against weapons that manipulated gravity itself. On Earth, the ground situation was reversing rapidly. Confederation occupation forces found themselves facing an enemy they couldn't understand. Human soldiers used personal teleportation devices to appear behind enemy lines. Their weapons fired bullets that phased through armor and reformed inside targets. Their vehicles could become intangible, passing through solid matter. Lieutenant Thompson led his unit in retaking New York City. The Confederation troops they faced were elite warriors, enhanced with cybernetics and trained for centuries. But they were trained to fight conventional enemies. They didn't know how to respond when human soldiers started walking through walls, or when their weapons suddenly aged 1,000 years in seconds due to localized time manipulation fields. The tide turned decisively when humanity revealed its ultimate weapon, the Prometheus Array. Built in secret on the far side of the moon, it was a massive dimensional manipulator that could alter the fundamental constants of reality in localized space. Sarah Chun authorized its activation with a heavy heart. The weapon was almost too powerful, too dangerous. But the Confederation had to be stopped here, or they would return with even greater force. The Prometheus array fired a single beam that seemed to bend space around it. It struck the Confederation's flagship, and something extraordinary happened. The ship didn't explode or disappear. It began to change. Its hull transformed from metal to organic matter, then to pure energy, then to something that couldn't exist in normal space. The ship phases out of reality, taking a significant portion of the Second Fleet with it in the dimensional wake. Admiral Zenterus, commanding from a secondary vessel, called for full retreat. But as his ships tried to enter hyperspace, they found that humans had somehow locked down the entire solar system. The dimensional anchors that Dr. Tanaka's team had developed prevented any form of faster-than-light travel within 50 astronomical units of Earth. The Confederation was trapped, forced to fight or surrender. Many chose to fight, but it was hopeless. Human technology had advanced in directions the aliens had never imagined. Where the Confederation had refined existing technology to perfection, humans had asked, what if we tried something completely different? Then something unexpected happened. A third force entered the battle. Ships unlike anything from Earth or the Confederation emerged from hyperspace beyond the dimensional anchors. They were organic-looking vessels that seemed to be grown rather than built. A new voice spoke across all communication channels. This is the Verdant Collective. We have watched this conflict with great interest. Sarah Chun felt her blood run cold. The Verdant Collective was only a rumor, a legend among the few humans who studied xenology. They were said to be an ancient civilization that observed but never interfered. Humans of Earth, the voice continued, you have shown something we have not seen eons. Innovation, creativity, the will to deceive and surprise. The Confederation has grown stagnant, conquering through superior numbers and established technology. You have reminded the galaxy that evolution requires change. Overseer Kelleth's voice crackled across the communications. The collective has no right to interfere. The Confederation's authority is ended, the collective interrupted. You have failed to adapt, failed to grow. These humans have demonstrated in days what you haven't achieved in millennia, true advancement. The collective's ships moved between the two fleets, their presence somehow calming the chaos of battle. Both sides found their weapons powering down, not through any force, but through a sudden understanding that the fight was over. Earth will remain independent, the collective announced. More than that, they will be offered membership in the MA. True galactic community, not as servants, but as equals. The Confederation's age of conquest ends today. Sarah Chun felt the weight of the moment. In 3 days, humanity had gone from facing enslavement to being recognized as a galactic power. But she also knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and dangers humanity couldn't imagine. The Confederation forces withdrew, their remaining ships limping back to their territory. Some requested asylum on Earth, unwilling to return to a civilization that had just lost its first battle in 10,000 years. These refugees brought knowledge and perspective that would help humanity prepare for its new role. President Martinez addressed the world from the UN, this time without pretense or deception. We stand at a threshold, she said. We have proven that humanity will not bow to tyrants, no matter how powerful. But we've also learned that we're not alone, and not all who are different are enemies. The integration process began immediately. Human ships, no longer needing to hide, began exploring the solar system openly. The technology developed in secret was shared with the public, launching a new age of advancement. Cities were rebuilt with dimensional architecture. Medicine advanced by centuries in months. Energy became essentially free through dimensional tap generators. Captain Rodriguez found himself appointed as humanity's first ambassador to the Verdant Collective. As his ship prepared to leave for their space, he reflected on how close humanity had come to losing everything. Dr. Tanaka was already working on the next generation of technology, incorporating insights from both Confederation tech and hints provided by the Collective. "We can't stop innovating," she told her team. "Today, we surprised them with dimensional phase technology. Tomorrow, someone might surprise us. We have to keep pushing boundaries." Lieutenant Thompson, promoted to major for his role in the liberation, oversaw the integration of alien refugees into Earth society. Many Confederation soldiers, freed from their rigid military structure, showed remarkable adaptation to human culture. Some even requested to join Earth's defense forces, bringing valuable experience and perspective. A Prometheus array was decommissioned after the battle, its power too dangerous to use except in the most extreme circumstances. But its existence sent a message to the galaxy. Earth could defend itself against any threat. Sarah Chun stood in her command center, now revealed to the world as Earth Defense Command. The screens showed a galaxy full of possibilities and dangers. Humanity had won its freedom, but with that freedom came responsibility. They were no longer hidden in their small corner of space. They were players on a galactic stage. The transformation of Earth happened rapidly. Within a year, poverty was eliminated through dimensional resource extraction. Disease became nearly extinct through medical nanotechnology. Humans began colonizing other worlds, not through conquest, but through cooperation with species that welcomed their innovative approach. The Galactic Confederation eventually reformed, abandoning its conquest-based structure for a more collaborative approach. They had learned the valuable lesson: assuming superiority based on age or traditional power was a fatal mistake. The youngest species could sometimes teach the oldest new tricks. As Sarah looked at the stars, she thought about the deception that had saved humanity. They had pretended to be weak, hidden their strength, and struck when least expected. Some called it dishonorable, but honor meant nothing if your species was enslaved. The Shadow Fleet, as historians would later call it, became legendary throughout the galaxy. The story of how a seemingly primitive species had fooled and defeated the mighty Confederation inspired resistance movements on dozens of worlds. It proved that David could still beat Goliath if David was clever enough. Humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to adapt, imagine, and surprise. In a galaxy that had grown comfortable with established orders and ancient hierarchies, humans brought chaos and creativity. They asked, "Why not?" when everyone else said, "It's always been this way." The stars were no longer distant lights in the sky, but destinations waiting to be explored. Humanity had earned its place among them through cunning, courage, and the willingness to risk everything on an elaborate deception. The galaxy had demanded Earth's submission. Instead, it got Earth's innovation, and the galaxy would never be the same.